Lisa Cannon. We're here at the lovely home of Helen Merritt. Today is February 22nd, 2017, and we're going to talk to Helen about her childhood, her life experiences, and lots of different things, anything that Helen would like to talk about. So, Helen, I am going to start, just tell us where and when you were born and your names of your parents.
Right here on Chincoteague, July 24th, 1927.
And
my mother's name was Viola Potts, and my dad's name was William Arden Potts.
What about your grandparents' names?
Melvins. I had David, Henry Melvin Sr., and Hester Ann Melvin was my grandmother. And as I told you, when she autographed my book, see, she always called me Hester Ann. And when she autographed my book, she autographed it as Hester Ann.
That's Miss Lillian.
That was Miss Lillian.
Right. So somehow she had your grandmother's name.
She knew her very well.
Yes.
They were in church together years and years ago. And she said, she always said I looked like her because I was short, you know, and just like her. She had a little round tummy. But she called me till she died, Hester Ann. So that's the way she autographed my book.
Well, that's a lovely thing to have.
Yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit about your parents.
Let me see. My mom had enough to do home washing for 4 kids. I had 2 brothers and a sister. And she cooked all the time. We had hot biscuits mornings or pancakes or whatever. And there was 4 of us. And washing took her all day long to wash because that was on a scrub board. Not push buttons, you know, like we have today. And that would take up their day by the time they got their clothes and hung them on the line. Of course, I still have a clothesline. I like my clothesline. I've got a dryer, and I dry when it's necessary. There's my sheets and blankets and things. I like out in the air. So
I agree with you. I know there are lots of different neighborhoods, there used to be on this island. What was your neighborhood growing up?
Down the marsh. That was down the marsh. This was up the island. This was down the marsh. And well, we grew up together with some friends there. One of my classmates, Jean Daisy, and then Ruth Williams, and we're still buddies today. And
so what street were you on?
Well, Main Street, right on Main Street, but way down. They called it down the marsh.
Is the house still there?
And they just tore my house down. It's been there all these years, and we had the best place because we were not out on the front. We were to the back, but we were on a hill. And the 62 storm came, and we were the only place that didn't get water in the house. All the neighbors were coming over to our house. And
that's something.
That was a bad time. Water came all in here. And I had pretty hardwood floors at that time. So then I covered them up later.
So you were living here in this home in 1962?
We came here in 52. Greg was born in 50, and we were living with my parents, and we built this home and moved here in 52. So that was the first bad storm we had seen.
So did you go down to your childhood home then to get away from the water?
No, I couldn't get there.
God.
No, I could talk to her on the phone. My mom would talk to me. And of course, they were taking everything out of their freezers and cooking it. My mother had gas. She was fine. And she said, I've got all this food and you can't get to me. But later on, you could see boats coming by, and they would take people out of their homes that wanted to go. But we didn't want to leave home. We went upstairs, and we had lounge chairs and plenty of covers and all that. We made it fine, just the 3 of us. But it was a sad time when you looked out and saw boats riding by your house, you know. But they were picking up the people that didn't have a second story to go to, which was a lot of them up on North Main Street.
Right.
I hope we don't see that again. No more storms like that.
Is that the only bad storm?
Well,
that
it
you
was
can
one in the
remember?
30s, but I don't remember much about that.
Yeah. So, what were some shops that you can remember going to back in the olden days? There used to be a lot more shops than there are now.
Yeah, it was little shops. We had a grocery store, and every neighborhood had their own grocery store.
Right.
So that was good. We didn't. It wasn't too much shopping at that time because not many people had any money to shop too much, and we always had plenty to eat and a nice hot warm house. So we always had a car. My father always had a car. Of course, when we were married, we always had a car. So it's been a good life. I've had a good life.
You have.
Hey.
You have. Well, let's talk a little bit more about growing up. You mentioned names of some friends. Ruth Williams, who's still
Yeah, I was with her
you.
last night. We had dinner
Isn't
last
that
night.
wonderful?
Yeah.
You mentioned at one point when I had been talking with you, Helen, about how tiny you were, and you had a special friend in school at one point. Tell us about that.
I don't think too many people remember her probably. We called her, I don't know, she had real red hair, and she was real husky. And she really looked out for me because I was so little and timid. I was timid. Now, nobody believes it today because I've changed. It took me a long time to express my feelings. I always thought, no, I won't say anything. But now, I speak. And they know I speak. So, I don't want to hurt anybody, but I feel like my opinion is just as good as somebody else's. Whether we like it or whether we don't. We don't all agree.
Can you remember that girl's name?
Ruby. She was like my sister's name, Ruby. Ruby Birch. I think at the time she was a Birch. She lived over on the other side of the island, east side. And she was pretty rugged. She was, we'd go out and play baseball in school and softball. And she could hit that ball, and really knock it. But she'd get me to run for her because I could run. I was little. And my son was just like me. He was fast. He'd go to our field meets in Califair, and he won all the things of fast speed. So we were little. I guess that's why. We didn't have that weight to carry.
Well, I want to talk about that some more, but before we do that, I wanted to ask you, did you ever go over to Assateague? Why would you go over there?
Well, for one thing, in later years, my father had a job over there. All of our men went over there for clamming. My father was a foreman, you might call him. And that's when we went to live on Assateague in the summer. We'd stay 2 months when school was out. And we lived in the old Coast Guard station. And that was an old big place, And the kitchen was off to itself. And my mother would cook on an old big wood stove, And it was hot in the summertime.
I bet.
No fans, no air conditioning. So that was a lot of fun for me and my brother. Now my older brother and sister never went because they were teenagers and they wanted to be with their friends here. And sometimes I'd get some of my friends, take them over there with me for 2 or 3 days, and we'd have a big time.
Did your father have a boat, or did you rent one or pay someone to?
No, he had a boat because he had poled across that channel every day.
Poling.
Every day. And the men that went there to work, not only did they pole to get over there, you can see where they went from one island to the other. When they got there, then they had to walk maybe another mile to get to the clam ground.
Right.
And so those men really worked for what they got. And my father kept account. They'd have to bring to him whatever they did that day. And then on the weekend, the man who was over in Greenback, Virginia, he was in it some way. Anyway, he kept their books. And he would come at like Saturday night, he'd come to our house and
Uh-huh.
write all the checks. And I can't remember now what it was, but the checks were very small. I don't expect they got over $5 and $10.
And that was a whole week's paycheck.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
by the time you were going over there, Helen, and you were living in the old Coast Guard station. Now that's the little bit of remains on Woodland, on the Woodland Drive there. Now there's hardly anything left.
Yeah.
That's the place you're talking about. Was anyone else living in any kind of buildings around
It
there?
was one other house across from where we were, and it was, I believe his name was Roland Jones. He would have been some relation to Roy Jones, who's the oldest man now.
Yes.
Left on the island. That's the only one I remember. Then up on the hill where the lighthouse was. Now my father got an old truck over there, and we could go all over the beach, you know. And we would, that was one of our trips we liked. We could ride up to the lighthouse. And of course, as children, we knew the lighthouse keeper. And we could go up the lighthouse. And that's my desire now. I want to go one more time up that lighthouse before I die. And I don't know, it would take me a while to get up there probably. I'd have to rest. Whereas then we could just run up those steps, you know.
You could do it.
I'd get there if I go. I'm going to try it one more time.
So the years you went might have been the early 1930s when you went over there for the
Yeah,
summers.
yeah.
Did you know Bill Scott, the storekeeper?
Sure did.
What do you remember about
No,
him?
he didn't have a store when I got there. The store, the people had started coming to Chincoteague to get their own food because they all had boats. Most of them were getting boats. And his business didn't require it, so he gave that up. But we would go, my dad would take us up there in the truck at night. That was our outing. We went to see Mr. Bill Scott. And I told you, you've heard and seen the picture of Mr. Ben Scott. He was the cleanest, prettiest white beard you ever saw. Well, Mr. Bill Scott was just the opposite. He had a beard, but he wasn't clean, you know. And he had a little dog named Lady. This is what reminded me of him. As a child, some things stick with you. And that little dog was like their child. They just loved that little dog. Mine was her, and the little dog's name was Lady. And she'd get up in his lap and just lick his beard, you know, all the time. Which didn't look too good. But anyway, that was the difference in the two men that I remember. Mr. Ben Scott was a picture to look at. He was always so clean, and his beard was snow white.
And he lived to be 106. I know.
He did.
You're right.
He was an elegant-looking old man. He really was.
Can you remember anything about Mimey Scott?
She was a little teeny scrawny woman. That's all I remember. I was little, and I thought she was just about my size. She was tiny, yeah. Talked real fast. But she was older, see, and that was the only time I knew her, when we were there in those couple of years.
Yeah, so you went over there a couple summers. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
What did you do about the heat? Can you remember? Did you play in the water? Did you go over to the waves on the beach, or did kids not do that?
We didn't do a lot of that. No, we had all kinds of animals there on I called it a farm almost. We had chickens and cats and dogs and all kinds of things I don't know, we kept busy.
Sure you did.
We thought it was vacation time for us, and it was nice.
Can you remember about mosquitoes? Did you have any little tricks for dealing with
you
the
just
mosquitoes?
had to fight them. No. You didn't get rid of mosquitoes, and Assateague was a bad place to be. Miss Lee and Rue, the teacher, she taught 6th grade last I was in. Everybody, when they got in 6th grade, wanted to get in her room because you had that trip to Assateague. She would get a boat, they'd get boats and carry us to Assateague. And we'd go up on that hill and have our lunch. We took our lunches with us. And right up there with the lighthouse. And the boys, ornery boys, I was little, and they could pick me up, threw me right down the hill, you know. But we all had such a good time. Everybody wanted to go to Assateague. And a lot of children didn't get to go. But she made a point, when when she had their end of the school year, they were going to Assateague.
And was it because Miss Lillian wanted to tell you about the history a little bit?
She had lived it. She had lived with people that knew a lot about Assateague, and she knew a lot.
Oh, I know she did. So she wanted the children to learn a
Yes.
little bit about
Oh,
that
yeah.
part of.
Yes, that was her favorite spot too. She loved to go over there too.
Isn't that touching?
It was good. Yeah.
How did you meet your husband?
Well, he lived up this end of the island, and I lived the other end, so we met in the middle. We met at school.
Okay.
He was a year ahead of me, and well, see, we were both young, and at that point, we had several girls in our class. 3 of us, I think, got married that year before we got out of school.
So when you were in what we'd say 11th grade today, next to last year. And so, did he have a car to come and court you?
No, not yet. No, we didn't. We were wild getting a car. Of course, by the time we got married, we did get a car because all my parents and they all had cars. So they made sure that we got a car too.
Oh.
So we always had a car.
So he had to walk quite a ways down to your house.
Yes, he did.
To see you.
Yes, he did. And then he had to walk back home,
Right.
all up here, and no street lights.
My
He said
gosh.
many a time it was dark as dungeon. I think he said one night he walked into a man, almost scared him to death. He said he think the man had been drinking, didn't know where he was.
Oh.
So, but that was quite a walk. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, some miles.
Yeah.
I wonder if he had a lantern or a flashlight or something?
No, they walked it enough. They knew where the path was, and I mean, it was no stone roads. It was all, I guess, just dirt roads probably.
Right.
Because this was a while getting stoned here, this street. when we
Maddox.
moved here. It was all right when we came, but it got better. But my neighbor next door, she moved here when there was no just dirt. And she said it was nothing. See, Mr. Wild Maddox owned all of this whole street, all the way across. And he had a lot of animals. And she said it was nothing to see an animal come up to her window when she moved here.
Wow.
But that was all done when we came. Everything was a lot better than that.
So, right,
Yeah.
right. Can you remember the days of the chicken industry here?
Yeah, my parents had chicken houses right
Oh,
in our
they
backyard.
did? Uh-huh.
2. They had 2 big chicken houses. I don't know how many thousand in each house, but they had 2. Yes, I do. And that was a big business at one time.
Yes.
I mean, they waited for prices. They wouldn't sell. They didn't want to sell till the price got up, you know. And they got some good prices for their chickens. But then it fizzled out after a while. Too many, you know.
Uh-huh. Too many people went into it, right, right. And then the storm, I understand, in
Yeah,
1962
that
that
finished
you
it.
were talking about
Yeah,
was
it did.
pretty devastating.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you and your husband, Paul, you didn't have that.
I worked at a dress shop downtown right there on the corner, which was Selby's Dress Shop.
Oh, yes.
I worked for Ralph Selby for, well, the whole time Paul was in the service, and up until Greg was born in 50, rather.
So, Helen, you worked in Selby's dress shop. Do you remember which building? Is that building still there?
Yeah, it's right on that corner as you turn down, what street is that, Mumford Street?
Main and Mumford?
Main, The one that, I think right now it's vacant. It's had
yes,
different
okay.
things in it, but
Okay, right, right. That was
he was in it for years.
yes.
We were across the street when I first went and worked for him. Across the street was a little old wooden building, and the floors were up and down. And when they built that with the theater,
Yes,
that was
that's
all
right.
at one time. It was
Yes.
3 there and the theater, and at the end was a jewelry shop. Used to be best store in town, really.
Selby's.
And Mr. Ralph Selby, the old Mr. Selby, he was the nicest old guy. He was real good to me. Now his son took over when he got, older and couldn't do it. His son got in, Ralph Selby Jr. And his son still lives here at times. They go to Florida in the
Yes.
winter.
Right, right. Well, let's talk about your husband, Paul. How did he get into politics? I know he was a big
Oh my.
politician.
I don't know. He was busy. He started the first nationwide insurance company here. So that's where he started. And then he went into other companies too. And I don't really know. Well, they begged him to run for council. And he said, okay, I guess I'll do it. Well, he ran for council. Of course, he was high man. And now this is a Republican town. But he had Republican votes. Because he beat them every time. He could beat all of them. And he ran, I don't know. He only ran that twice because then they got on him. They wanted him to go to Accomack for supervisor.
Right.
Well, he did that for 32 years. Never lost election.
Oh.
Thought it was time to give up. Yeah.
How did he happen to become a Democrat?
This sounds silly. I tell them that reason we were Democrats because we were always taught that the Republicans were money people. And it wasn't too many people on here that really had a lot of money. We were just normal people. And that's the only reason I know.
So you just felt like the Democrats were for the working
They
people?
were, yeah, that Republicans were a step above us. So,
But it
I'll
didn't...
be a Democrat now till I die. I'm not going to change now. And Trump scares me to death. Woo.
So people voted for him and it didn't matter because they just were voting for the man with your husband. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What do you think are some of his important accomplishments, Helen? What do you think he would be proud of? What would he have said?
Gee, I don't know. He said a lot. He was really outspoken on that board, and they respected him. He went in there, when he got in there, see, he was still a young man. He was only in his 20s. Mm-hmm. And they hadn't had one that young. And the one older man there that ruled, pretty well ruled, he said, he called him boy. And he went back at him for it. He said, I'm tired of you calling me boy. He said, I'm a man. I was nominated to come in here, and I'm here. And I don't wish you would call me that anymore. So I think Mr. Summers stopped it. But they had a lot of respect for Paul. Paul was strong. I mean, he fought for this town. Oh, my dear. Anything and everything. They just kept re-electing him. They figured nobody else. He had two, I think it was only two ran against him. One was a woman. Well, she didn't make it. And one man, I think it was only twice he had competition. But he enjoyed it. He enjoyed it so much. And trying to work his business down here. Yeah. And then every so often he had to go to Accomack. Our car went to Accomack a lot. Because then they'd have special meetings he'd have to go. But he enjoyed every bit of it. He'd go to Richmond. And then Greg was getting older and he'd take Greg with him sometimes. And Greg got into some of it. He liked it too. But he didn't go that far.
How did you happen to start your miniature pony farm on the corner of Deep Hole Road and Maddox Boulevard?
That's a long story. We used to go to Pennsylvania a lot, and of course we traveled right much. We'd go now and then. We took Greg everywhere. World's Fair, anything was coming off, we'd take him. And we went there, and somebody told us there. We knew about horses all our life. We never could have one because you weren't allowed to have them here. And then we heard about this miniature pony farm. They were shipped over from Argentina. Cutest little things. We went up there and saw their show. And oh, my husband just thought that was it. He said, now look, we've got Misty and big horses, but those little ones are something. And you could train them so good. So that's how we got in it. He came home and he began to write. And he found out where he could get them, so he did. And I guess we must have had about 10, maybe 12, I don't remember. And you know, I was scared of horses all my life.
Were you?
And I'd had horses in my family all my life, right in the yard. But I didn't ride, and I didn't go too close to them. And my father couldn't get over it. And I said one day, well, I would like to have my picture taken on one of them. Well, I was scared to death, you know. So I did get on the picture. And when that horse moved, I just screamed. It scared me so bad. And my dad said, get off of that horse and don't get on anymore. That's the best you can do. And I never did. But with the little ones, he would never believe if he'd been here. I got in the stalls with them. They just felt like my size.
They were adorable.
They were.
Yeah. What are some little things they could do? You said you could train them. Can you remember any little?
They'd kiss you. They would drink. One would drink Coke. They'd stand up on their hind feet. Whatever they were told to do. We had a German fellow to come train them. See, I didn't like him either. He was. I thought he was mean. I said, "You're too mean to those animals." He said, "This is the way you have to train them." Well, I didn't like it. I said, "No, you're just mean to them." But he did. He did a good job. He's the one trained me.
Did so he left then at some point?
Yeah, we paid him to come here to train him because had done it in Pennsylvania.
I see.
So,
Yeah. How long did you have that miniature pony farm? Several years?
Yeah. I expect we had it 10 years. Yeah, good while.
Who've been some of the other citizens of Chincoteague that you've admired in your lifetime?
Well, we've had a lot of good people.
You mentioned Weil Maddox earlier, and he owned all this
Weil
property.
was a friend to everybody. We bought every piece of property we bought from him. And you'd have to almost run him down to pay your money, you know. We built this house, and of course I remember going to the bank every month to pay the payment. And I think that payment might have been $50-some a month. This house was scared us to death. My father said, "You'll never live to pay for it." And I think the house was only about, I don't know, what was $9,000, $10,000, somewhere in there. And it did look like an awful lot. But we paid for it. He said, "You'll never live that long to pay all that money." He didn't believe in loans anyway. So we made it.
Helen, we were talking at one point about the different neighborhoods that still exist in Chincoteague. People don't refer to them quite as much, but you had a funny story about your sister and something I didn't know, which was something about Ridge Road. So show us that and tell us.
This is they called Island Rattlesnake. Now there was never no rattlesnakes on the island. Where they came up with this, we had snakes because my sister took this picture. Now we'd had that one. That was my great grandmother. This is what she had. This was my sister walking down Ridge Road with not a house or nothing around. This was Rattlesnake Ridge is what it was called. She said she was trying to explain to them, there's nothing here, you know. And she even told about my mother had to walk that road to go to school. And when she did, she said one day her shoe came untied. She stopped to tie her shoe. And when she did, she said a snake just dropped off a tree right beside her and scared her so bad. But there was nothing on this street at all. That's Ridge Road that you're looking at now. And this is where she was walking down there, so she wanted a picture of it. And it told that there was nothing there at all. So it was called Rattlesnake. But once I don't know when it changed or how it changed, when they started building homes down there. They took the rattlesnake off and just said Ridge Road.
It must have always been kind of a joke, since, as you said, there never were.
There were no rattlesnakes on Chincoteague.
Right.
We know it. There was a lot about Indians said too. You know, the Indians were here before we were, and I guess we just pushed them off eventually. But I think in the meantime, I often wonder about this. In the meantime, before they left, they were getting in with the island people. Who knows? They might have been married, or maybe they just lived together. I don't know how it came about. But they said some of the Indians did get in with our people before they were gone.
I'm sure.
So that might have had some bearing with her. So,
That's a great story.
And
Speaking of stories, Helen, who are some of the good storytellers around Chincoteague? Who has good
there's none left on them. They're all gone. Roy Jones is the only one left that I could talk to. And bless his heart, he's really getting feeble. I don't think he's 97.
I think you're
I
right.
believe.
Yeah.
It was 4 or 5 of the men were 96, 97. And he was the oldest. Bill Birch, who died not too long ago, last year, I guess.
He had good stories, too.
Well, he knew some of the times, but not like Roy did.
About the history of the old
He
days.
came from the mainland to move here. His people did. Where Roy was always here and asked
Yes.
to.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was our historian. And I know that the chamber must have this. He even drew a little map himself, and I've had it somewhere.
Yes, we have it at the museum.
Okay. And he even put the little houses
I
there.
know it.
And the ones that lived there.
Yeah.
But see, that was before my time. I didn't
Yeah. Oh,
remember
yeah.
this
Right.
little
Right.
house.
I think that shows the village before you were even born.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one time, some years later, Roy did take. He went with my sister and a few of them, his sister, and went over there and took them around to where the little houses were. And I never got to go.
Eula
for
and
some
Blanche.
reason.
His sisters were Eula and Blanche.
Blanche.
Right? Yeah.
And of course, she just died.
Yes. Yeah.
Blanche.
How does Chincoteague take care of its senior citizens? What's it like growing older here?
I think they make that real well here. I think with our people and people that have moved here, we've had some good people to move here. We've had some that we wish weren't here, but that's in anything, in any community. But we've got a lot of good people here.
The churches help with
And the
senior
churches, our church, I'm a Union Baptist, and we do a lot. We do, even my little class, we've got a class of about maybe 20 ladies.
Do you?
And we give a lot. We're always giving somebody that we know needs it.
So you keep track of who's shut in or who needs food?
We do. And it's people. I think older people make it better here than anywhere. I really do. If we know somebody that's shut in, and then we have a group at the church that twice a month they carry meals to. Anybody that you put on their list that's shut in, or they're old, can't get out to do anything. Now I think they'll go. Let's see, today. No, they go on Thursday. They'll deliver meals Thursday. I've had help that you can't believe, and why I'm still here, I don't know. I try to help other people. Maybe that's what Lord's left me here for. I don't know.
So the church has been important in your life.
Very. I've been there since I was 13 years old.
My goodness.
And we've had some mighty good pastors. We got a good one now. And he's not the friendliest. He's hard to get to know sometimes. Because I told him, I said, you're not friendly enough. I said, preachers have to be friendly. He said, Miss Helen, I have been shy a lot of my life. I said, I know you were younger. I said, but you can't be like that and be a pastor. You got to meet people. Well, he's got a lot better. He does a lot. Yeah. He visits a lot sick or goes to the hospital to see them. And they're good. They're younger. Of course, he says he's old. He's about maybe 60. I don't know. He says he's old. I can tell he's aged. We put a lot of age on him since he's been here. Because we still have a lot of older people in our church. But that young blood, we needed that too.
Do you think that young people tend to leave Chincoteague these days?
They have to. They have to. Summertime here, a young person can go out and get a job in a restaurant doing something. Wintertime, I've got it right now. I've got grandchildren. My grandson has just gone with, he graduated from college last year. He's just gone with the sheriff's department. He's got to work his way up. Now, just get your foot in the door, and he's done it. He's a go-getter. He will do. And So he started at the very bottom, and the worst job you could have. He's in the jail. He's in the jail with all the inmates. And some days it's not good. Some of them get bad. Some of them want to fight you, you know, and some of them are all right. But he likes investigating, and he wants to work his way up till he gets into investigating.
I see.
That's what he would like.
Right. And you have 2 other grandchildren.
Well, I got one. I worry about him because he's always been in restaurants cooking.
Oh, okay.
He's been down here at steamers.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And he's, we want more for him. And, of course, his mother, Crystal, has Captain's axe.
Yes.
And she's worked all her life.
Yeah.
And she wants to make sure he works, too. She believes everybody should work. She works more like a man than she does a woman.
So Zach is your great-grandson.
Great. He's a great. The others are grandchildren. The little one, the youngest one, I got his picture there on the table.
Oh, yes.
His mother remarried.
Yes.
Which we weren't happy about. And he's up in Pennsylvania. And I don't get to see him much.
Oh.
He's changed so much because he
It's
didn't
adorable.
have glasses when he was here, and he's got glasses now. So he's 9 years old.
Aw.
So I do worry about grandchildren, getting them settled and getting a life of their own, you know.
Right.
I don't know.
We always do. What are some characteristics of Teagers?
I guess you could say they were different. They were always working people, but they did believe in helping others. If they had more than another, then they would share. And that was my biggest thing about them. We've always had enough friends around you that when you're in trouble, they're there.
Yeah.
So we've still got a lot of that. And I know we have a lot of people that moved here and we've met a lot of nice people that have moved here. We had 2 men moved here, and they got right in our church and right up in the choir. 2 good men. And this was a good place to be. This was a good place to be.
Yes. Well, and you're a wonderful example of a Teager, I think, Helen.
Well, I guess I don't know any other. You know, I wouldn't want to live in the city. We traveled a lot, went to New York a lot, we went everywhere. But I was always glad to come home to the quiet life. You know? That's all right for a while, but I wouldn't want to be in the rat race every day, like I see they are.
What would be a hope that you would have for Chincoteague in the future? What would you hope for?
I don't want them to get too big. I was very much against the brewery coming in here. I thought for a little hick town like this, why would they pick Chincoteague?
Just because you don't like the alcohol part of it?
I don't like any part of alcohol. If somebody wants a beer or wants something and they know and what they can do with it, that's their business. But it's been in my family, every family in here somewhere would be, you were involved with it, you know. You had somebody there that would always drink too much. I didn't think it was needed here. I thought there was a whole county there. And then they had great big letters, brewery in Chincoteague, and it didn't sound like Chincoteague to me. Now we want a water park, and we want a dog park. I'd be for the dog park because I feel sorry for people that come here with their animals. And I know some of them are just like their family, and they take them. And then they get here and can't go to the beach.
Yeah.
They can't do anything.
Yeah.
So I think that will be, and they're going to have something next week or so, and I'm going to go to that.
Wagapalooza.
Is that what it is? Okay, I got a friend who's going to get me a ticket. So I said, all right, I do want to go to that. I'd be for that. The water park doesn't make any difference to me. They've been talking about the land, and I don't understand it all. But at first I didn't think it was needed because they come here to go to the beach. But I guess there's still people who like to go in the water, and unless you're in a motel that has a pool, you can't. So maybe that's a good thing too. I can't knock it. I hate to see too much. And the only another thing gets me, and you've all seen this, all the T-shirt shops. It was just so many. I mean, there's two down here, and the same one, the same people have another one downtown. That's to me a monopoly that I don't like, you know. But that's business, and I guess I don't want to see it getting any bigger. To tell you the truth, I don't.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's part
We're
of the
an
charm
island
of it.
after all. We only have so much space, and I think we got enough.
I agree. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add, Helen, that I didn't think to ask you about?
No,
or-
I think I've talked you to death.
Oh, no, not at all. I could keep going. Helen, I wanted to ask you about your store where you sell the Breyer horse models. How did you happen to start doing that?
Gosh, it's been so long, I don't know how we started it, tell you the truth. Paul got into it because he liked horses too. And we had seen them other places. And I guess we just thought, since we're noted for horses, we should get in that too. So we did. Now I had a shop when we first started, was over where the ponies were.
I see.
That building that's still there.
The pink
that
building?
was my shop.
Oh, okay.
Well, when he went out of business, his insurance business, I took his place on the corner. I don't know how long we have been there. A long time. It's been a good business. I mean, it's just a summertime thing. I'm only open about 5 months. But I've enjoyed it. I've met the nicest people.
Aw.
When you meet harsh people, you meet nice people. You know, if they're good to a horse, they're good to people. And I've met some of the nice. I've even had them come say, "Can I come around the corner and hug you?" And the counter, come on. Yeah. So I have, and
sweet.
some of them will correspond later. You know, so I have met great people. Because I tell them too, I said, if you're harsh people, you're good people. So we know a lot. It's been
So
been
you've
a
had
good
that a
thing.
lot of years.
Yes, I can't remember when we started.
Yeah.
And my granddaughter, Crystal, thinks I should give it up. And I said, but this is me. I'll tell you when I'm ready to give it up. You don't tell me to give it up, you know. She's one would like to tell me what to do, but that don't work anymore.
It sounds
I
like
had a son that would say, "Mom, you do what you want to," you know. But her, no, she would like to tell me what to do, but she knows she can't. She's a hard working girl.
yeah.
She believes everybody should work. And man, she works in that hot kitchen.
Oh, I
when they
know it.
all day long.
I know
Go
it.
in there, it would take your breath. She wanted to enlarge and go more to a sit-down restaurant. Well, it hasn't worked out for her yet. I said, I don't know how you could stand any more work than what you got.
Yeah.
She does a
They do
real
work
good
hard,
business
yeah.
in summertime.
Yeah. I'm
She's
sure.
getting ready now. She'll open, I guess, in another month. But it's hot work in there. You're over that stove all the time, and
I
air
know.
conditioning don't do any good.
Right.
She runs fans all the time, or they're just circulating hot air, you
Yeah.
know. So she deserves everything she gets out of it, but she does love it. She's
Oh,
good
good.
at it.
Uh-huh.
And you can depend on what you get there will be fresh. It'll be right.
Yeah.
She throws away a lot of stuff that don't look right to her. She wants, and she gives good portions.
Yes, she
Yeah,
sure
she
does.
gives a lot.
She's got a great work ethic.
Yeah, she had. I tell her sometimes, of course, she's big-hearted. She always did give away a lot. And Zach has got a lot of that in him.
Oh, her son.
I've seen him give children. And one night we went to a spaghetti dinner at the school after a football game, or before it. And my friend Ruth and I always went to those. We'd go to the game. And we came out, and Zach was there with some of his boyfriends. And she said, Helen, Zach's getting a spaghetti dinner. He had a ticket. And I said, he won't eat that. he's very peculiar in what he eats. I said, he won't eat that. She said, well, he's getting it. So I said, okay, when we're all done, we're ready to leave, I'm going over to his table. I'm going to see how much he ate. And I said, oh, where's your spaghetti? Have you finished it? He said, Mom, I didn't want that. I gave it to him. This is the way he was. I've seen some say, well, I'd like to go to movies with you. And he'd say, well, get your dad. Won't your dad give you some money? And then one would say, no, he won't. He won't say a word. But I'd go on back my business, and when I'd come back out, they were off to the movies. Because I knew he had enough money to pay for the boy, too. I mean, this is, and she said she's going to be that way. I've known people get money from her, too. And she's big-hearted. Her mother was that way. They give you the last thing they got. I said, Crystal, in business, you can't do that. You can't give away your profit. You know? But you can't take that out of some of it. And it's good that, that they've got a heart.
It is good,
you know? Yeah, it's good. It always works out for them.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, we've
good.
had and listen, I've had a wonderful life. I wish everybody could have the health and strength that I've had.
I wish they could, too.
I've never had a surgery, but cataracts. And I mean, now, of course, I gotta have something. I'm getting arthritis in my, I guess, in my bones and my legs, and my step's not the same. Well, I'm almost 90 years old.
I know.
Why wouldn't I have something? So, I guess that's what I'm here for. I don't know.
You said you were born on July 24th, so your birthday falls during pony penning.
Pony penning. And they don't even know I have a birthday.
Oh.
I don't. Last year, I did have one person felt so sorry for me. We were working. Of course, everybody works that time.
At the carnival.
No, I was working at my shop.
At your shop.
Yeah. And we did. I thought, well, maybe Crystal will come up with a cake, you know. She didn't. They were so busy, she never thought about it. See? And somebody felt so sorry, one of the ladies, and that we knew. Next day, she went and got us a cake. So we had cake the next day. No, Pony Penny, you can't have a birthday. Nobody knows you're even alive.
Well, it's like having your birthday on Christmas or something almost.
Well, my husband had it Christmas.
Oh, did he?
He said, you always get cheated.
Right.
He said, and I said, no, you don't. You get your gifts just the same. But his was 23rd. So that and pony penning is two bad times to have a birthday.
Okay.
But it usually works out all right.
Well, you know, speaking about your childhood, show us your doll there, Helen. I'll take
Oh,
these
my
things
dear,
first.
yeah. This one is the only thing I ever had left of my toys. And why I kept it, I don't know. Because my sister was older. She was 4 years older. If she got a doll before I did, she got them with hair, pretty dolls. Well, mine always come bald-headed. And I would pull the hair off of hers because I thought hers looked like mine. Yeah. But that didn't work. So she would take her good things to my grandmother, so I couldn't get to them. I guess I really got in her hair, I tell you. But this baby, I don't know how I kept her. I really don't. Because she would be 80. Well, I could have been 5 or 6 years old when I got her. She'd be in her 80s. All these clothes were what Greg wore home from the hospital.
Aww.
And they said, you mean a boy wore that dress home? I said, that's the way we dressed our babies. You didn't dress them like a boy. So they couldn't get over it. But her little shoes are falling apart.
Aww.
I can't do much about it, but just set her still.
And all handmade.
Yeah, this was handmade sweater. Women here used to do a lot of this. In fact, Ruth Williams, that I was telling you about, my good friend, her mother did a lot of these. And I think that's where this came from. Yeah, the women used to make a lot of them.
Beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you have a name for her?
No, I don't remember it. I just called her baby.
She's a big doll. She was
big.
Impressive doll.
She was big, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And her eyes still work too, all
I
these years.
see.
She still blinks her eyes.
Yeah, I think you took good care of her.
I don't know how, because I didn't keep much, because I was destructive, I guess. My sister had to take her good things to my grandmother. If hers looked better than mine, I tore it up. So.
All right, well, we'll end on a note about the other side of Helen Merritt there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Helen. Appreciate it very, very much.
Well,
It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Well, I hope it's all right.
Did we see your
Right,
picture, and we talked about Rattlesnake Ridge, did we see your picture when you were a cover girl on the beacon there?
Oh, yeah, that's one I didn't want to show. Yes, there it is. I've had a lot of comments that, oh, you made front page. I said, yeah, it only took me 89 years to do it.
Oh, the Eastern Shore News, right, there we
That
go.
was the news.
See,
That was
can you,
terrible.
can you, okay, so can you hold that up so that, yeah, is that good?
Perfect. That's great.
Meet the inimitable Helen Merritt.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah,
cannot
yeah.
be imitated.
What does this mean?
Cannot
Min-
be imitated.
I can't
Nobody, you cannot be
Oh,
imitated.
imitate.
Nobody can
They don't.
pretend to be you.
Yeah. No, I don't think they can be me. And that people don't believe now that I was ever timid, but I was. I was very quiet because, like I say, I was the smallest of any of them,
Yeah.
and I couldn't fight. I couldn't.
And Ruby
fight
protected you until you
No.
got stronger, huh?
Ruby, no.
I mean, your friend Ruby at
Oh.
school, not your sister Ruby.
No. My sister Ruby, no, she paid me no mind.
Oh.
I was in her way a lot of times, you know. Now my brother, I had the sweetest brother. He was real calm and quiet, you know. Everybody loved him. He rode horses, he rode to the roundup, and all that for years. My dad and him too. And but I guess as I got older, I felt like, you know, it's my time to speak.
Yeah.
I've not got much longer.